Hi everyone, welcome to Guiding Voice podcast series. The Guiding Voice for a better future. This podcast is to help students and young professionals to shape their careers. In every episode, we interact with industry experts and drive insightful conversations that will help our audience to learn great things. Thank you for tuning in. This is Naveen and I'm with my co-host Sudhakar. So folks, today we are going to discuss one of the most important topics and which will help us become emotionally strong, mindfulness and emotional well-being. And we are pleased to welcome Suchi to our podcast series and talk about this intriguing subject.
Suchi Sen Basu wears many hats. She is a certified cognitive behavioral therapy practitioner and emotional wellness expert. She is a social entrepreneur, a writer, and an animal rights advocate. Suchi is the director of Little Papillons, India's first emotional wellness initiative for early years and teens. Suchi is the founder of a startup, Earthly Sienna, and works towards climate change awareness through workshops in schools, colleges, and corporate offices through a non-profit for environmental awareness activities firm called One Earth Social Initiative. Suchi also represents Women's Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, that is WICCI, as the state president for West Bengal elementary education.
She is also associated with various educational non-profits in crucial roles such as the Secretary, Kolkata chapter of ECA, which stands for Early Childhood Association of India, and head consultant for the Early Years program of Swapno Puran Welfare Society.
Suchi loves to interact with the kids and women. As part of that, she actively participates in various environmental awareness campaigns, animal rights activism, and poverty alleviation for rural women. Suchi, welcome to our show. Let's get into our conversation.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and with amazing hosts like you. Thank you so much.
Great, Suchi. Let's get into the basics first. How do we define mindfulness?
Basically, mindfulness means being aware of your own self or what we are doing, what we feel, what we speak. So personally for me, in very short, in one sentence, it means to be in sync with one's own self. So what happens most of the times is we are affected by what is happening around us, or something somebody told to us, or what others are doing and why I am not doing that, or maybe I could be doing this, I could be doing that, or so and so person told me something, and we get caught up in this cycle. But we forget that we are individuals, we are our own self, and we get caught up in the world, forgetting our true identity. So mindfulness for me is when we recognize, when we truly recognize our own self, our own feelings and emotions. And it's all about who we are, who I am, rather than how others are perceiving me. So that's what mindfulness is for me.
So Suchi, with that definition, being social animals, in my opinion, we human beings are born mindful. But over a period of time, things change because of the brought up, because of the cultures, the society, the surroundings that we are part of. And I think we may forget about this mindfulness. What's your take on that?
So Naveen, actually what happens is, when we study about psychology and human behavior, so technically when a baby is born, a newborn baby isn't really aware of their surroundings, for the first few months. They cannot really differentiate between themselves and something that is surrounding them. So, a newborn baby is trying to probably suck their finger, or, they may even try to get hold of a pillow or anything that is lying beside them. So they don't really know that is a separate being, that I am an own individual. They cannot do that. But as we grow older, we become more conscious. We begin to connect with people, especially with people whom we are close to, our parents, our mothers. we try to connect to them, we try to connect to objects. Then when we start going to school, we meet more people. That is when we, in the true sense, we begin to become social members of society. Now, coming to your question of you're losing our mindfulness, so that actually happens very gradually. And that is the reason we don't realize it. Slowly, as we are trying to blend in with the society, we become social beings. We try to get into this race of doing things, of achieving things, that so-called rat race, or maybe running an invisible race, to be very honest. And we leave ourselves behind. We start placing more value on external objects or external gratification rather than on our own self. So we forget that, is this what I actually want to achieve? Is this the actual goal of my life, or I am just following the herd, or I'm just trying to go with the world? So that's how it is. So I would like to share a story from a friend. That's not my own story, so I will not name the friend. He was into IIT, so a brilliant mind, okay? And he went into there because obviously he had a brilliant mind, a top scorer, a straight A student, right from the beginning. So his parents wanted him to, so we have this roles in our mind that a A student should always become a doctor, an engineer, something like that. So this person gets into IIT and he quits after 2 semesters. He realizes this is not for me. And today he is one of the leading cartoonists in India. We would actually see a lot of his cartoons on TV, on Indian cartoons. So he pursued his dream. So he is probably one of the very few people who actually could, in fact, realize that this is not for me, and I need to do something else. So he took a call. So very few of us, sometimes realize that this is something that we need to do. We become actually scared, that I am already halfway into this. Should I leave this? Should I not leave this? Should I continue, see where it goes? And I would just like to say that it's not really late actually. Whenever we are starting, it is okay to start. If we are confident that this is something that we want to do, we should actually do it. And that is when we can again come back to being mindful and finding back ourselves.
That's actually great insight. I think KFC was started by someone, that time he was 57 or something, right?
60 plus, yeah, true.
It's never too late. Yeah.
My personal example is I passed out from NIFT in Mumbai from BRAF. I did my fashion designing, and yet here I am, a completely different field, which because I realized that is something that I do not want to do that. And thankfully I realized it probably a little earlier so that I could focus on something that I really, really want to do.
Yeah, you brought up that interesting perspective, sharing your friend's story and also your story. And I completely concur with what happens, because many a times we have that feeling, okay, I started this and let me complete this. And by that time, probably you are spending good amount of time and you will not realize that the opportunity is missed. So very insightful. And also you covered about invisible race, social conformity. So amazing insights, Suchi. Now let's talk a bit about emotional well-being. Like, how is it different from mental well-being, and can you throw some light around it?
Yeah, so this is a question that I do get asked many a times, that why do you talk about emotional well-being and not mental well-being? How is it different, or how is it connected? So emotional well-being is actually a part of a whole bigger umbrella that we call as mental well-being. So mental well-being, includes a lot of concerns that sometimes do need medical attention, or it may be a pre-existing disorder. So we have and may require, drugs or medicines at times to overcome those, or more of a regular medical attention. So if we are talking about autism or ADHD, so these are kind of the things that require a more, specific professional attention. But when we talk about emotional well-being, it is for everybody and anybody. Mm-hmm. So it's a part of mental well-being. So many problems such as depression or anxiety, these arise from not being emotionally well, rather. So if we can start this emotional development, or being emotionally aware from a very young age, or if we can channelize this, then a lot of these kind of mental health, aggravated mental health issues can be avoided. So in our groups, we have these sessions. So emotional wellness we conduct for various age groups. We conduct for adults also, we conduct for old people also who are 50 plus, and they are going through a different phase in their life, and they feel that anxiety, they feel depressed, that Probably children have grown up, they have lost connect with their children emotionally and mentally, not maybe not physically, maybe they are still staying with them, but they have lost that connect and they feel anxious, they feel depressed. So these are emotional wellness sessions help them there. And for young children, they do not understand what they are feeling. So first, it is important for them to understand what they are feeling, then to express what they are feeling, and then when we come to people like us who are working, who are constantly, probably kind of very busy in a grind kind of a thing. So for us also, we forget that we come home feeling very anxious from a meeting probably that didn't go the way that we wanted to, or our project or our presentation was rejected due to some XYZ reason. And we come home, emotionally drained from offices, and we cannot give back to our loved ones what we should be giving back. That happiness, that love, we are unable to give back. So this is all emotional state, right? This is not a mental state. But unfortunately, if these small emotional issues, if they are left unattended, if we don't pay attention to it and consciously start doing something about it, it may actually lead to more complications of mental health. So it's very important to understand and accept and regulate emotions so that we can avoidable mental health issues do not occur. So these are something that is avoidable. These are something that we can consciously try to keep at bay.
Yep, we need to understand, accept, and regulate emotions in order to maintain our mental well-being. So that is very well put through. Now, tying both the topics, emotional well-being and mindfulness, how are they interlinked?
So it is actually interdependent or interrelated, you can say. So mindfulness is being in sync with your own self, and emotions are a part of us. So this is something that actually ties both of these together. And we are all born with emotions, and we lose connection to that as well. As we lose connection to ourselves and mindfulness, we probably lose connection to our emotion in the sense that we do not pay enough attention to our emotions, and that is why we do not know how to regulate it. What we spoke about just. So that's the reason we do not know how to regulate it. So it's important for us to understand how we are feeling. Why are we feeling the way that we are? And what can we do about it? So these are some important questions we need to ask ourselves often. So, and these are the questions that would lead us to the road of mindfulness. So emotionally well individuals are also mindful individuals. That's the way I see it.
Excellent, Suchi. Now, with the explanation that you provided about the emotional well-being and mindfulness, how is it different between emotional intelligence and emotional well-being?
So emotional intelligence is also known as EQ, that is emotional quotient, which is nothing but the ability to understand emotions, balance them, and synchronize them in any given situation. So this can be achieved, this EQ or emotional intelligence can be achieved through various emotional development programs also. So these emotional development programs is what leads to emotional well-being, and that leads to being us more emotionally intelligent per se. So people with high emotional intelligence are also conscious about the emotions of people around them. So emotional intelligence is not only for us. So emotional well-being, you can say, is more of a personal thing for myself. An emotional intelligent person would be able to perceive the person who is opposite to them or around them. They are able to perceive their emotions as well. So they end up being more empathetic. So not just to people, in fact to animals and all the beings around them. So understanding our emotions is what is emotional well-being, and then the ability to regulate them ultimately leads to our emotional well-being. So this is how they are interconnected. We need to understand our own emotions, our own feelings, and how to regulate them, and then we can also connect to each and everyone around us. That is what makes us more social being and socio-emotionally developed. So one leads to the other.
Excellent. In this case, how to promote or instill this emotional well-being across all the human beings?
Like when we spoke initially also. So the first step is to be aware about our emotions. So what happens is most of the times we are aware, but we choose to ignore our emotions. We have this, thing of, okay, we usually, obviously being social people, we are more concerned about what is happening around us and to others, to people. It's time to get back to connect to our own selves and be aware of our own emotions. And it's also important to accept that we have a different range of emotions. We cannot always be happy. I would just like to say one more thing about here is, so emotional wellness or being emotionally developed is not about being happy. That is not the concept of being emotionally well-being. Emotional well-being is when I know what I am feeling and I accept the way that I am feeling, but I also know how to regulate it. So it's a rainbow of emotions, we can say. So negative emotions, sometimes we are not allowed to portray our negative emotions. If we are feeling depressed, if we are not really not feeling up to doing something, it's considered as a taboo. From childhood we are being taught that. So I would like to pick a social issue here, that men are not allowed to cry per se. You said that boys don't cry. Boys are human beings, right? Why wouldn't they be allowed to? They also have emotions. They are pretty much allowed to express their emotions. So what happens is, we are always shown that negative emotions are wrong. So negative emotions are not wrong. They are a part of us. They are there within us for a reason. The only thing we need is to channelize them, because the more we push the emotions within us, the more issues we begin to create within ourselves. It may come out in some other way. So these emotions may come out in aggression or depression or being a socially anxious person. So we do not want that. We do not want it to create a negative impact. So we need to know and accept the emotions as they are, and then regulate it and channelize it in a certain way. So some of the things that we can do to instill more emotional well-being, like I told you, it's not only about happiness but aura of a well-being. We need to find some me time. So what I mean by me time is not scrolling through social media or watching a movie or watching TV. So that is not a me time. Me time is when I am only with myself, not distracted by anything else. So it could be doing something that I like. It could be doing painting, or it could be reading a book, or it could be simply just sitting on the balcony and doing some bird watching. So something that I like to do. So scrolling through social media, again, we scroll through things that people are doing, and we begin to wonder that whether we fall into that same invisible race again. So social media scrolling and watching TV is not a me time. It's again distracting us from our own self. So we need to do activities that is going to connect us to ourselves. So that's called as me time. That's one of the things that we should do. And another thing that we should do is spend time with people who make us feel positive, who give us positive energy. It could be a friend, it could even be our own children at times. Children have this vibrancy of energy which really, really picks us up. So we can spend time with, if you don't have your own children, you can spend time with probably doing something for an orphanage, or doing some social cause. So this also actually promotes a little bit of emotional well-being. We do advise this to our clients also, connecting to people that would make you feel more positive. Read a good book, meditation and yoga. So yoga is something that started in India, lost its essence, went to the West, and again it has come back to India
in a new form.
Exactly. We don't need power yogas, and we don't really need all those fancy stuff. It's just that the meditation again gives that time to connect to yourself. Just sit quietly, gather your thoughts, gather your feelings, and talk to yourself. So that's what it is about. Last but not the least, if at point we feel that things have become more daunting, we should not hesitate to seek professional help if it actually reaches that level, and if we feel that this has gone beyond something that we could do. Then professional help also is something that should not be considered as a taboo or as a negative impact, but we should go ahead and seek professional help if we think that we are unable to do it ourselves, or we don't have somebody who can help us out within our immediate circle. Definitely that's the last option probably.
Great tip, Suchi. Now, how can we practice this mindfulness?
See, a few of the points that I spoke about in the previous one, so it's very similar. So few of the points we can take from there, like having a me time, doing meditation to gather our own feelings. So, and another thing that we keep on doing, which may seem easier said than done to most of us, is not thinking about the past. So when I say not thinking about the past is something that we cannot change. So unless that is adding value to us, so let's say we have done a mistake in the past and we are learned something from that which is going to be useful for our next steps. Okay, so let's say I started a business and that has failed. So I can go back and see what I have done wrong so that I don't repeat the same mistakes. But let's say if somebody was in a relationship and that relationship is not there anymore, so thinking about it is only going to create negative emotions, negative impact in our life. So that's not going to help us. So we should stop thinking about that. So I give this example so that it's easier to connect with people. So this is what I mean by we should not go back and think about the past. If we are learning something from the past, if it is going to help us in our future or in the present, then definitely go back in the past. Otherwise, there's no point in thinking about the things that we cannot change.
Yep. So you're saying we have to live in the present rather than worrying about the past or focusing on future?
Yeah, so focusing on future, yes, probably, we can set a vision, but not brood on it. If something has not happened today, it doesn't mean that it's never going to happen. We can still work on it and think about it that, okay, this is, probably what I want to keep doing so that ultimately I reach a certain goal in life. And another thing that we should do is we should pay attention to what we are doing, what we are saying. So what we are doing in the sense, so how we are reacting to certain situations. What are the words that are coming out from our mouth in a certain situation? So if we are going somewhere and we are late, so we start cursing in the cab, we start thinking about all the negative things that can happen. So these are our negative thoughts. So we should pay attention and we should try to move them aside as much as possible. And then, then we will start probably getting more negative. Sometimes, that negativity comes out and we take it out on people who are around us, who don't even deserve that. And nobody deserves to be, spoken rudely or spoken, reaction, a negative reaction. We should always be very attentive about what we are speaking, how we are speaking, and why are we speaking that. And at the same time, it is also important that we do not be judgmental. We often see someone and we immediately create a picture or a thought in our mind. So we should not let judgments cloud our mind. And I'm going to say something which may not sound related, but it is. We should also focus on what we are eating. Again, in our Indian traditions, we say, we become what we eat. So we should, eat mindfully as well. In the sense, everybody tells us from childhood, but then we at times, we go with the flow and we forget. So not eating too much of junk food, eating fresh food, homemade food as much as possible. I am going to say this, so it depends on whether people accept it. But so in my personal life, whatever I have seen is as much as possible when you avoid animal products, it helps in healing yourself also. This is something that I leave it out in the open. But yes, definitely do not eat junk food. Eat fresh food, fruits, vegetables, drink lots of water because our body is made of water. So eating is something that we think that we are eating it because we either feel hungry or just because it is a process. It's not that. Whatever we eat provides an impact to our life. If we are constantly eating junk food and fried food, it is going to affect our health, and ultimately it's going to affect our emotions and mental health also.
Suchi, I think thanks to the current pandemic situation, I think most of us are having our home food only. Blessing in disguise.
Yes, again, Naveen, I would like to share something if that's possible. So I am here in Kolkata. So Bengalis are very famous. There are few sects in our India, Bengalis or Punjabis or, certain sects in India. Their love for food. So I see this yesterday. I had to go out. I haven't been going out. So I went out, I think after the official lockdown was lifted up, I was still not going out unless emergency. And yesterday was one of those days. And I saw these big hoardings of, hotels reopening, and there is all kinds of new restaurants also coming up. And people are going there, and they are opening up because people are going there, right? So people have taken it, okay, we couldn't go in lockdown, so now it's the time, so let's go and have a blast. So again, so they are again getting back into that same cycle. So they've forgotten, whatever they have practiced. So this is an excellent example of losing mindfulness. So we have been very mindful of not going out, of being safe. But as soon as, things may seem normal from their perceptions, it's all gone haywire again. So people have lost again, how to be mindful. So we should not do that. We should really be very, very conscious of what we are doing and what actions and what reactions, those could have.
Absolutely. So Suchi, changing the gears a bit here. You wear so many hats, right? So how do you manage your time and priorities?
Well, yeah, so I guess a part of the answer lies in today's topic, wherein, to be very curt, I can say that, it's just by practicing mindfulness and being conscious of my well-being also. So it may seem that I'm doing a lot of things, but I do things which for me in my consciousness are related to each other, So my world actually revolves around children. So if you see, everything that I do are connected to children, whether it is the well-being of the family or whether it is working for the environment, because we and our predecessors have done enough damage to the earth knowingly or unknowingly. We cannot leave that kind of a world to our children. So it's all interconnected for me. But I also don't really take up projects that I know that is not my passion, or that I know that I will not be able to do justice to it. So any project or anything that I take up is something that I feel very, very passionate about, that I love to do. So this is very important, to do what you love and love what you are doing. Then people say that, we don't have the luxury to do what we love. So maybe then till that time, so it is possible that, probably somebody wants to do something but maybe the family responsibilities, the financial responsibilities may not allow them to take up something because it would hurt the family as such. So it is possible. So till that time, probably, then we use the word as, fake it till we make it. So probably be a little more conscious of what we are doing, because if we keep doing, we need to do something. We need to do a 9-to-5 job because we don't have an option. But if we are doing it with a negative mindset that I'm doing it simply because of, X, Y, Z, then we are going to end up in that whole vicious cycle of not feeling well, not wanting to do this, and then not performing well, and then that again non-performance leads to not being successful, and then not being successful leads us to being sad, and then it becomes a whole cycle. When we know that we are doing that, we should probably accept it with a little more of an open mind and an open heart, and pursue it till, because we know that okay, our aim is something else. So let's do it probably as a side hustle, or do it when you want to do. So maybe somebody loves to play football but cannot take it up as a profession. So maybe they can join a football club or go with friends on a weekend. So they still have that outlet of doing something that they love to do. So, and when they come back to their job, they are also putting in their good efforts, putting in their best of efforts in their job as well. So I have a friend who is a doctor and he loves to write. So a doctor and an author is again an unusual combination, people say. But then that's what he loves to do. So that doesn't make him a bad doctor or a bad author. He's equally good at both. So the writings is for when there is not an emergency, or a nighttime writer kind of a thing, or moonlighting as a writer. And his day job is being a doctor, going to the clinic and treating patients and helping them out. This is one of the examples. I just went a little off topic, but I just wanted to give you an example that this is how, we people who seem to do many things kind of probably in their mind or in my mind, it's just that one thing that I'm doing it for our future, for our children, to make a better world. That's my main goal, to make a better world. And anything that syncs with that vision, I jump in it. If there is something that doesn't resonate to that, I don't do it. I simply say no to it.
I think that's cool. Wonderful tips.
Thank you, Suchi. Really appreciate you taking time for this podcast. Thank you for joining us today. It was indeed great discussion on this sensitive topic about mindfulness and emotional well-being.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's been a wonderful time. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So these are all insightful, and definitely it is going to bring in change. These are all something which have evolved during your research and having worked with some clients and so on and so forth. So thank you for all the amazing thoughts, Suchi.
Thank you so much. Thanks once again for having me.
Dear listeners, to know more about our speaker and the content, visit or follow us on social media. We are available on LinkedIn, Facebook, Insta, Twitter, Pinterest, and also on YouTube. Just search for The Guiding Voice and then follow, like, subscribe to us, and also share within your own network. Feel free to email us at theguidingvoiceforyou@gmail.com. That is theguidingvoice4 as a digit u at gmail.com, or WhatsApp us on India number 9494 587 187, and we will be happy to collaborate with you.
All right. So it brings us to the trivia segment of today's episode. And today's trivia is about hard drive. In 1956, the 5 MB hard drive used to weigh a ton, which is 1000 kgs. So in 1956, when IBM launched RAMAC, RAMAC, the first computer with something like a hard drive that we use today usually consists of magnetic disks with a moving head and was used to access and write that data. And at that time, it was considered a massive leap in mass storage technology because it signified a shift from punch cards and magnetic tape, which used to store data sequentially, to randomly accessible hard drives, because it was difficult to execute commands using punch cards and magnetic tape because of sequential nature. Talking a little bit more about RAMAC, it itself stood for Random Access Method of Accounting and Control. And the whole cabinet weighed over 1000 kg, and it could just accommodate 5 MB data over 50 huge aluminum discs coated with magnetic iron oxide. Those discs rotated at a speed of 1200 RPM, and the machines were leased for a whopping $3,200 per month back in the day. But now we're talking about 1 terabyte hard drive or storage even on a mobile phone, which is used for regular consumption. So imagine 5 MB data machine was leased for $3,200 per month, which is quite huge and whopping amount. Interesting, isn't it? Thank you for listening. There is more in store. Stay tuned. Have a wonderful time. Take care and be safe. Until next time, bye-bye.